Hello, you are listening to She's Doing All Right, the podcast where we are talking about feeling unqualified, feeling the fear, and we're going to do it anyway because we want to. I am your host, Sarah Carter, and today we are discussing a very personal topic, motherhood, and more specifically, postpartum depression, and feeling very unqualified to have been sent home with a child from the hospital. So a quick little trigger warning, we are talking briefly about suicidal thoughts and wanting to not exist on this earth anymore. I would not have wanted to hear someone talk about that when I was in my worst days. So if you are having one of the worst days, please turn this off. I will be here next week if you want to come back. I would like to also mention that I'm going to be having a few affiliate codes in these episodes if they relate to the topic that I'm discussing. And microdosing really helped me get through my postpartum and anxiety. It's an alternative medicine. I know it's not very mainstream yet, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of people realizing the benefits of this. So I would love to share with you guys the brands I use and offer you a discount if you're interested in checking them out. But I'm only talking about my experience. I am not recommending anything. I am not a doctor, not a professional. Do with that information as you will. So getting into this episode, have you ever felt like you were so confident about starting something? You were like, I am ready for this. I am qualified for this. And then a couple months in, you're just like, what did I get myself into? It's exactly what you thought the job was on paper. And yet the emotional ties to this and the emotional investment is far more than you could have ever imagined. And nobody can tell you. That is what motherhood is like. I don't think I'm the only one. In fact, I know I'm not the only one. I think I might be the only one in my friend group who felt this strongly, but I know from being online, I am far from the only person that feels this way. One thing that not bothers me, everyone's allowed to say whatever they want to say, but it kind of makes me laugh when I see someone being like, why didn't anyone warn me about this? And it's usually in regards to something with motherhood or babies. And my reaction to that is always, A, the information is out there, go find it. Everyone talks about these things. And B, we could beat this subject to death of how hard motherhood is or how exhausting it is and how no one's truly tired until they've been sleep deprived. Don't even get me started on that. Everyone's allowed to feel tired. But you will never fully understand it until you are in it. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things. I think it's like skydiving. You do not know that true fear of, it's not even fear, it's the adrenaline. Your stomach drops through your pants and you throw yourself out of a plane and you're just like, cool, I'm flying. Okay, let's hope I don't go this fast the whole way. Hope I slow down. Hope things make sense. Hopefully I can get my feet under me. That's like motherhood. Skydiving and motherhood, very similar. You're never going to understand the full emotional impact until you're in it. So unfortunately, people can show you pictures, they can tell you stories, they can give you warnings, you can sign waivers, and it's still just not gonna you cannot be fully prepared. I was raised in a very religious household, the oldest of my mother's 6 kids. For future clarification, I do have older siblings, but they were at my dad's and I wasn't raised with them really. We're close now, but anyway, I always say I'm the oldest of 6. So the household, very religious. Our ultimate goal as a daughter was to grow up, be a young, beautiful Christian woman whose best skills were making soup and taking care of children, and a bonus skill might be singing or playing the piano. From 6 years old, I was changing diapers. By the time my husband and I decided to have a baby, I was like, I am ready. I was teaching him how to put diapers onto the stuffed animals and stuff that we had gotten for the baby. And I was like, I got this. It's easy. Ha! So funny. Another thing about me is that I wanted 4 children. I have always thought if I could financially afford it, I don't think I ever intended to have 4, but wanting 4, if I could financially afford it, I think 4 kids sounds so fun. That's a small family to me because I grew up 6 kids at one house, 7 at the other. 4 kids means half the family is gone and you're having a quiet family dinner. So I got pregnant and then I wanted no children. I was like, I am despising this entire experience. And with that, I was also being like, oh my God, I will feel incredibly guilty if anything happens, because while I am mourning my old life, I desperately wanted this one. I understand both can be true, but if something happens to this baby in any way, it's my fault for wishing this or for thinking this. So don't even have the thoughts. Red flag number 1, feel your feelings. The guilt is going to be there because I think that's just how we as women are, but also just you're growing a human and you're feeling very out of it and you're feeling like you want to mourn what you couldn't have anymore. It's such a big change, especially with that first. So I initially, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I immediately stopped feeling my feelings because I was trying to not wish away my kid or my pregnancy. The pregnancy itself was really okay. I didn't love it. I was exhausted, like absolutely exhausted, and I was quite nauseous. So the only thing I ate was an A&W burger, Beyond Burger, with extra pickles, no onions. I got it once a week. If I can give any piece of advice to anybody about this kind of side topic, don't make plans. Do not have your pregnancy plan. Do not have a birth plan. Make your ideals and get peace with every outcome. Think about, okay, I want to have this kind of pregnancy, but I'm also going to be totally okay if my pregnancy means I have to be on bed rest. Or I want to be in a water pool with birds singing and live doves while I birth my child into this world. Make sure that you hold on to that and prepare for that, but also sit with yourself and come to peace with the idea that maybe you're going to have a C-section. And maybe it's more chaotic than you want it to be. The more you fight it, the worse it's going to be. I did a lot of that. I was very okay with whatever the outcome was because the kid was 2 weeks late. I had to get induced and I was actually asking for a C-section. They're like, Sarah, that is a major surgery. And I'm like, I don't care. Get him out of me. I'm so over this. But become at peace with all the alternative options, because that's going to make whatever happens a lot better, I promise. Labored for 14 hours, pushed for 30 minutes, had a beautiful little baby boy who's very judgmental. He came out looking like, what the hell? I'm here again? I just left. I didn't want to be here. I thought I was done. And that has been his attitude the rest of his last year and a half. It's been pretty entertaining. Around 6 months old, I think I was like, we're good. We're golden. We have an easy relationship. He and I were just flowing. The only downside was that he did not sleep. And yeah, red flag number 2 probably right there, because if you've ever done any reading about war crimes, you'll know that sleep deprivation is one of them, combined, I should clarify, combined with the sound of a crying baby. So the next time you get up at 3 in the morning and you're trying to bounce your child back to sleep and you're like, they won't stop crying, I absolutely hate this. It's okay to hate it. You are allowed to hate it. I hate it. And so does most of the sane world, because they're like, yeah, we actually can't do this to torture prisoners anymore. So it is truly torture. I think the sleep deprivation was the worst. And if you are sleep deprived, watch yourself for depression. A lot of people sleep train around that 4-month mark, and I think that's what helps them get out of it. I was open-minded to sleep training, but we were also bed sharing and nursing. Like, I just found it co-sleeping a lot easier, and I didn't have to get up out of bed, so I was sleeping better by co-sleeping. But then 10 months in, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm just exhausted of always being on call, and nobody else can go put him down unless I pump a bottle. And I just wasn't loving it. So 10 months in, I stopped breastfeeding. By the way, do a breastfeeding shoot if you are the mom or if you are breastfeeding. I cherish those photos so much. I'm so happy because I have closure now, and I do not miss breastfeeding at all. Like, I miss it sometimes, but I'm like, it's okay. It's not like I forgot about it. I have all these beautiful photos. Yeah, breastfeeding photo shoot. Highly recommend. At 10 months, we decided to also start sleep training, actually maybe closer to 11 months, because he still was not sleeping. He was up literally every 3 to 4 hours, and I was losing my mind. I think that that's where I started feeling truly depressed. I realized, like, I don't like being a mom. And I didn't know how much that, like, breastfeeding really messes your hormones. that because they're creating so much extra vitamins and all this stuff. From my understanding, I could be completely wrong here, but that's my understanding, is like your body's creating so much more to feed another human and give it their nutrients, that you could starve yourself. The baby is still going to get all the nutrients it needs because your body will just make it from your bones, your blood, your whatever. Anyway, we try sleep training, and I don't know if that made things better or worse. Better for his sleep, but worse for my mom guilt, because I was like, this kid just wants to be with somebody. When I'm cold at night, I like to snuggle up to my husband. If I am going to bed, I like to know that he's home and know where he is. And like, I don't know, I don't want to feel alone. And yet here I am putting my 10-month-old in a room, dark, alone, telling him this is how it has to be. So that was really hard on me. I don't really know how I felt about it, but we desperately needed the sleep. And I was like, something has to give. And so that's what that's going to be. Kind of juggling those emotions, feeling like he needs to go to a daycare. I need space and I need time, but I also just don't know like what to do. So shortly after his first birthday, he was sleeping better and up until about 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was getting up once a night still. He and I were out for a walk, and I ended up tripping over the stroller while we ran on the last block to the home. And I fractured my forearm. It was pretty painful and very scary, because randomly, this was my only fear before baby, was I don't want a running stroller, because I have this weird fear, this weird intrusive thought that I am going to fall or faint, and I am going to like have my child in the stroller, and best case scenario, I'm passed out on the ground and he's staying in the stroller. Worst case scenario, the stroller rolls into traffic. So I tripped over the stroller, hit my leg very bad, hit my chin, broke my arm, sat up the stroller, and then I passed out on the grass of my neighbor's lawn. And she found me after saying that she heard a baby crying and thought it was weird that she could still hear the baby crying. So I don't know how long I was out, but yeah, worst fear came to reality, and I hadn't thought about it since before baby. It was just weird. But that certainly added to any depressive thoughts I was having earlier. And I couldn't do what I was normally doing. And it's like my brain was like, well, guess you can't do anything. You can't walk, you can't do this, you can't do that, because your arm is broken. And I hated feeling that way. I'm very much not in that mindset normally. But then Marcus would push on me and hurt my arm. And it started telling my brain, it's his fault I'm hurt. I hate talking about this. I still feel so guilty even like mentioning this stuff, and I'm giving you the light version. So I felt like my brain was blaming my kid. Reality, like I always ask myself, is it true? And when I feel any strong emotion, really happy, really bad, regardless of any heightened emotion, I ask myself, is it true? And by that, is this reality? It's real that I'm feeling this, but is it real with what I see in front of me? And so I knew realistically it's not his fault. And that created another battle in my head, as if I didn't have enough going on in there anyway. I did not hate my kid, but I really hated being a mom. Like I remember thinking a lot of times, I wish I was just babysitting. There's a sound on TikTok I just remembered, and they're like, hey, when's your mom coming to get you? And the kid's like, you're my mom. And the person's like, oh shit. That's exactly how I felt for 4 months this summer. I just wanted him to be with somebody that would keep him safe and happy, because I felt strongly that he deserved better than me. And then that's kind of twisted, because I'd have such a horrible day. My husband would get home, there's no dinner, the house isn't clean as much as he likes it to be. I clean for him, not for me. It's part of the way I show my love, I guess. And yeah, so it went from being, I'm not a good mom, I'm a horrible mom, in fact, and my son deserves much better. And that went into, I'm a horrible wife and my husband deserves better. And I feel like maybe it'd be better for everyone if I just wasn't here. So I would disassociate a lot, and it was really sad. Like I remember sitting there, he would laugh at me and I was just numb. Like I was full on coping. One time he giggled while I was putting him down for a nap, and my brain, I caught it. I was very much, that's not true. But my brain told me, this isn't even worth it. Like even the laughs are not worth it. And immediately I was like, that's not true. This is worth it. This is why I'm here. And he's feeling joy, which means I'm not projecting too much on him right now, because that was a big concern for me, is that my energy was so strong. Like, it was just heavy and sad and negative, and I couldn't drag myself out of it. It's like being in a pit and the ladder is right beside you, but you don't feel like you can stand that ladder up. You're like, I'm not strong enough to lift up this ladder, and I'm trying, but I don't know how to stand this ladder up so that I can climb out of this hole. So I did talk to my therapist. I started talking to my therapist. Actually, backtrack. I started taking Microgenics, which is a microdosing brand. They have like lion's mane and psilocybin, cordyceps, and all this stuff. So I took it for about a week, like every 2 days, I think. And I did start feeling a lot better. And so on one of my therapist calls, I mentioned it to her, and I was like, I have been journaling. I've been doing the whole "is it true?" I've been focusing on all the good things and just trying to be aware of the bad thoughts, so that I'm like, okay, where did that come from? Because I don't want to put a band-aid on it. I want to get to the root of it and fix it. I asked her if, like, what her thoughts were on microdosing. And she kind of smiled and laughed. And she's like, honestly, there's not enough science out there for me personally to see how it works. I really think that it's more a placebo effect. But if it's working for you, continue doing it. Because placebo effect or not, like, the power of the mind is massive. And so it doesn't really matter if it's actually doing something or not itself. If it makes you feel better and it makes you feel like you're present and being a mom and wanting to be a mom, then do that. If it's making you and your child safe, continue. The reason I continued with it was because I was very present and focused. There was definitely still some times where I'd take it and I'd snap, and I was like, what is going on? But I think because it kind of slowed me down and made me more focused, I didn't have a million thoughts going in my head. I was able to acknowledge, like, that wasn't the right reaction. Without the microdosing, I would storm past. I'd freak out. I'd lose it, and it would just escalate, right? It was like the negative energy was feeding the negative energy. When I would take a microdose, I would freak out, and immediately I'd be like, that wasn't the reaction I wanted to have. That was a childish reaction. And oh yeah, I didn't get, like, that's how I was spoken to as a child. So that's her coming out here. She is very tired, or I'm very tired. I am overwhelmed and I'm very much overstimulated. And so now I am letting the childish and inner child version of me react rather than the parent adult version of me. That is where I found the most benefit, I guess, and success from microdosing, is that I was able to be very reflective and introspective in the moment. I hope that makes sense. I was a lot happier to sit and play. Before, I would very much disassociate by scrolling on my phone, and I hate being on my phone in front of him or in front of people, really. But it got really bad. Like, I'd sit there being like, this is not what I want to be doing, and yet here I am, I'm still scrolling and just trying to numb my mind or whatever it is that I was trying to do. And with microdosing, I actually really just wanted to be with my kid, and I would put my phone away, I'd turn it on silent, and or I'd have it out and I'd film. That's something I've always done. Is I set my phone up and I'd play with my son, so that I'm capturing these moments of him and I, like, just playing together. And I love that. I'm so grateful that I do that. My husband actually started noticing too. He's like, no, you're way better. Like, you are happy when I get home. The house is clean. You and Marcus are friends again. We're not fighting. And there's more times than not, there's dinner ready to go, or at least an idea of dinner. And so it was like I was a different person. And that was really validating to know that he was seeing the difference as well. So that was microdosing with Microgenics, and I still do that about once or twice a week, I'd say. If you are interested in checking them out, they are a Canadian-based company. They can only ship within Canada at the moment, but you can go and check them out on microgenics.net. And if you'd like to get 15% off your order, you can try SCarter15 at checkout. That one is the capsules. The Clarity capsules is what I would recommend. Their gummies are good as well. But I know I'm talking about competing brands, but I'm still going to do it because nobody's affected. No one's sponsoring this. It's just me, and I like both of these. I use Mojo gummies when it comes to the gummies now. because they don't actually do capsules and they have no psilocybin. So they can ship all across North America. I've been taking these ones for focus. And one thing I really love about them is that they actually have the least amount of sugar in their product on like for any gummies or any microdosing stuff on the market. Both of them make me focus, both get me creative, both get me productive. I would just say that the capsules themselves, the Microgenics one, they let me be very, like, I was really present with them. With Mojo, I take them, I feel very like bubbly and I'm ready to plan out my entire life and take action immediately. So I've already said the code for Microgenics. If you want to try the Mojo gummies, they ship across North America and you can save 25% when you visit mojo.shop/Sarah Carter, or you can just use the code Sarah Carter at checkout. I'm really loving the blueberry and lavender flavor on this one. I've tried a few of their flavors and that one's my favorite. To quickly recap, everything that has really helped me with getting through my postpartum depression and becoming the mom that I want to be is therapy, talking to people. Talk therapy, I think, is one of the best forms for myself. I know not everyone loves it, or if they love it, it's in different ways. Journaling, and again, very vague. There's so many ways to journal. It doesn't have to be a daily practice. It doesn't have to be anything. There's no rules. You get to make your rules. But writing stuff down, especially when we're in the darkest of it, is very helpful. I find looking back and seeing, like, it's hard to read because I'm like, that's me. That was like me 4 months ago. Communication. This honestly should be first. Tell the people around you that you are feeling concerned. This does not make you weak. This does not make you anything but brave and safe. Yeah, for a while there, I felt like the people in my life would be better off without me in this life. Not even just like, oh, I just need to go away for a little bit, but like I really thought that the best option was gone. Like, just disappear, wipe me off the face of the earth. We'll go and stop and I'll get to sleep. The communicating was key for my husband and my friends to be like, okay, she's told us this and now we can watch for it. And then I was able to tell them, like, I'm feeling this way. Have you noticed anything different? Sleep is also important. I feel like a world of difference if I'm taking vitamin C, vitamin D, and getting the proper rest I need. So communication, sleep, therapy, journaling, and then, yeah, for me, it was microdosing that really, I think, was the last piece to the puzzle of helping me get through this. There's so much information out there on alternative medicines. I've definitely looked more into it. And again, not anything against Western medicine. I think that there's absolutely a time and a place for those. Thank you so, so much for listening and tuning in and supporting me. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's where I'll be posting more updates and question boxes if you want to leave anything for me to talk about. But sarah.g.carter is my personal Instagram, and She's Doing All Right is the podcast Instagram. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. So on Instagram, on the podcast Instagram, I'm going to write a post that is relevant to this. And I would love if you would comment your thoughts down below of what you thought of the episode and the topic. And as always, go ahead and share this episode or the channel with somebody that you think might benefit from it. If I can get anything out of this episode, it would be that people in this situation know that they're not alone. Because in the moment, you can have a million people telling you you're not alone. And yet hearing somebody else's experience, for me anyway, hearing somebody else's experience reminded me, like, okay, they got through this and I can too. Like, right now, life doesn't feel like it's worth living, but I don't know, in a month I might feel different. And in a month you will feel different, especially if you're taking active steps, which we previously discussed there. So anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week.